and I also need the picture of the skull, so I'm going to open that up too. I don't know if I can record. Can you guys, if I share my screen, can you still see my demo table? Give me a thumbs up if you can see my demo and my screen. Sweet. Okay. So we're going to open that presentation back up again. It's in both the Monday, Thursday folder. It's called a Reminder of Project Charcoal Drawings and Anatomy. So that's got the pictures of the skulls in there. So you might want to open that up if you're ready for this step. And I am drawing, I'm going to work on Amanda. So I need the female skull. And this one's slightly turned, but I think I can still work from it fine. I'm not too worried about it. All right, and I also am going to take off my nice jacket so I don't get a bunch of charcoal on it. And I'm going to put my apron on. I think it's a good idea to have some form of apron or shirt that you don't mind getting messy when you're working with messy materials. Okay, and another thing I'm going to do here is I always mirror my image, but it doesn't really look and work great when you're trying to actually demonstrate. So let me fix that. There we go, much better. Okay, so you want to be, if you're not here yet, you want to be here by the end of class. You want to be done with your proportions and sketching in your facial features just with line. We're not doing any value yet. If you need me to check this, there's a section in today's folder that says feedback. So if at any point you want me to look at your drawing, then take a picture of it, post it in the feedback discussion board, and I will get back to you. Okay, so we need our charcoal, we need our blending stump, and our eraser. Those are our main materials for this. And we're going to literally draw the skull right over her face. That's why we don't want any value yet, because we're going to learn about the proportions of the skull. So the first thing you want to pay attention to is that the eye opening for the skull starts at the top of the brow line. If you touch your eyebrows, you'll see it sticking out. And that is the very top of that. So I'm actually going to draw. And then right at the sort of top of your cheekbone, that is where the bottom of the skull, your eye skull opening sits. So I'm looking at the skull and I'm also working from her face here. And I'm just going to continue to refer back to the picture of the skull. I'm going to look back and forth, try to get the shape correct. And if you have any apps on your phone or any way to create like stop motion animation from this drawing, this might be fun. So every time you're in a new step or stage, take a picture of it, and then we could drop it into a time lapse. Okay, so I've got the outline. Now remember, the nose, this part of the nose, the tip of the nose and the nostrils are all cartilage, right? So the opening of the nose is actually exactly what it sounds like. It's an opening, and it doesn't go down to the bottom of the tip of the nose. It's kind of more like right here. So at the very top of that opening is kind of like if you touch your face, you can feel that bump on your nose. It's kind of like that ridge. These are just basic shapes so far. And what is the purpose of this? The purpose of this is to learn the anatomy of the face. The more you understand the anatomy of the face, the easier it is to really draw a face without a reference image. All right, cheekbones. And then we might even want to get that like little dip. There's a little dip here where your temple is, and it kind of comes back up. And then you might want to estimate here, like her lips are here, and the part of your teeth kind of right where your lips part. For now, we don't need to draw the teeth in. You might be thinking, well, I'm going to mess up my drawing. Well, we're going to be doing a lot of adding and a lot of subtracting of charcoal for this. So I don't want you to resist drawing over something you've already drawn, because that's kind of the technique we're using for this. Okay, and then we're going to get that other cheekbone in there and go back, and then we're going to get that temple line, curves around, and then we might even want to finish off the skull up here. Okay, so that's the top of the jaw, top jaw, and then the bottom jaw. We've got the teeth that kind of sit down here. Again, we're just working on lines so far. There's a hole here in your skull. This is like where the jaw opens up. And then, of course, this back jaw is attached here. And then you just want to follow the shape of her face for the bottom. And then back up, and then close that off there. I have an extra line right there. Okay, so once you get this drawn in, then you can actually start to add value. Yes, we are going to add value to the skull, and we're going to take a photo of it, and then we'll eventually move the value around. So I'm going to continue to look at my photograph of the skull here, and I'm just going to drop some shadows in there, very light, because once I blend this in, it's going to get much darker, so you want to be careful not to go too dark. And our goal here is to try to make it look three-dimensional. So the only way to do that is to focus on highlight and shadow. So I like to put the shadows in first. And little details like the top skull here, you can see that there's ridges along this top jaw, and those ridges are for the roots of your teeth. So if you draw some of those in there, just go slow. You're drawing right over your features. And yes, this is, the skull is white, but even the white bone has a shadow on it because there's light on it, and it's going to curve around, and once it curves around, it's going to have a shadow to it. And the same for the bottom jaw here. There's going to be these little ridge areas for the roots of the teeth. Okay, so once we have the shadow kind of drawn in, you're going to take your blending stump, and this is where we're going to really start to do the we're adding, and then we're going to subtract. So now I'm going to really soften up that charcoal and try to get some nice shadows, nice smooth shadows. Now I know that this is, you might never have really studied the skull before, or even really looked at it or tried to draw it or anything. When we first started this project, we talked about how the skull is kind of a cultural symbol in a lot of ways, and we talked about the symbolism of the skull, and some of us said, well, the skull is, could be a symbol of death, but it's also a symbol of life in a lot of cultures, and it is, and from a scientific perspective, it is part of our body. And as artists, we need to learn how to draw the body. And we need to know kind of what's underneath here in order to really understand the anatomy of a body. So that is the purpose of this. And when you get into college and you take a figure drawing class, you will be doing the same thing. You're going to be studying the bone structure, the muscles, and drawing the figure in all different poses. So the goal here is to just blend really nicely the charcoal that we laid down. And you can see how much darker that got just by blending it, right? So that's what I mean by don't put too much down, or you're just going to have a real dark mess here. And eventually we want it to look like bone. I haven't drawn the teeth in yet, but I think I'm going to save that for later. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to cover up the nose. I'm just going to blend the nose right in, because right now that cartilage in that nose doesn't matter. Not there yet, put it that way. I want it to look like a skull. And I will probably, now that I know where the part is, I'm going to erase this so I can put the teeth in there. Okay, so this is the fun part. This is the part I love about additive subtractive. I'm going to take my eraser and now I'm going to do some more blending, and I'm going to pull out the highlights of my skull. So we'll start with the forehead. So I'm just kind of going in circles, and there's sort of a blending effect that happens when you do that. But I'm also pulling out where I see the brightest areas in the skull. Especially like the things that stick out, that's what's going to be bright. So the ridges of things, like the ridge of the brow. Does anyone have any questions so far? No questions? Wow, okay, you're probably just watching then. I haven't started quite working on yours yet. And remember, we're going for objective. We want it to look realistic. I think I'm going to leave the eyes in there because I think that they'll help us. But I will kind of go around the inside and do a little bit of brightening of that shadow. It'll save a step later to not have to redraw those eyes. And actually need to darken up the nose a bit. I think I'm going to brighten up the area around the nose first, and then I'm going to darken it because it's a hole inside the skull, so there's a lot of shadow in there. And there's actually, if you look at the skull, there's a bone that runs between the inside of that hole there. It's like a little ridge. You know, this is the first initial step. We're going to go in later and like add some more details, especially in the teeth area, the jaw area. We kind of have to get the value right first though. Okay, so you can see how quickly that happened there. And now we're going to fine tune it a little bit. And what I mean by that is I'm going to go in and actually work on the teeth. So I'm going to really be looking at that and getting each tooth sort of correct. And you're going to say, wow, these teeth look really long. Well, teeth do look really long when there's no lips on top. We never really see the entire tooth when we're smiling at each other. We see only a part of the tooth. Do I have any questions? Okay, I want to give you guys time to work. I'm going to continue to work on my demo here so you can keep watching, but I want you to be working as well. So it's 2:40, and I'd like you to come back at, let's say 3:15 this time, and we'll take a photo and we'll post it as a WIP. And if you guys need any help, post your drawing in the feedback and I will get back to you. Okay, and then Kaya, do you want to do a breakout room? I'm sorry, not Kaya, Taylor. My apologies.
It's okay. I think it's okay. I'm gonna watch some of the recordings, like catch up on some stuff.
Okay, that's a great idea. Yeah, and then before you watch the recordings, why don't you read through these slides?
Okay.
Okay, and then let me know if you have. Do you have your art supplies yet?
I'm gonna get them today after school.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so yeah, that's a great idea to read through all that stuff and watch the demos. All right, let me know if you have any questions. And the rest of you, you're free to stay on or you're free to turn your camera off. It's up to you. I'm going to keep working.
Did you record this?
I did. I'm still recording. Actually, I'm going to keep working on the teeth a little bit more. If you guys post in the feedback, put it in the chat or give me a shout out, and I will jump off of here and go check.
Miss Graninger, do you want us to get all that done today?
No, my expectation for today is to finish up your feature proportions and then share it with me So I can be like thumbs up or no, your eyes need to be closer together, whatever. And then you can start the skull.
I put my drawing in the work in progress on Monday, but I didn't get any feedback.
Oh, the whips aren't for feedback. The whips are just me kind of checking on what you did for the day. So if you want feedback, you have to put it in the feedback folder.
I did put it in the feedback.
Today?
No, on Monday.
Oh, okay. Well, feedback is kind of like what happens in class. I'm not going to probably go back in after class and write a bunch of feedback for everybody. I'd rather just do it live. It's a lot easier.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want feedback right now, I'm happy to give it to you. Do you want me to go look or do you want to share your work?
Can you look at the old picture? Because I kind of already started on the skull.
Sure. Let me stop my video here.